Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Matt here from ChillTCG. Today, we're back with our weekly meta-analysis video series, except, it's a little bit difficult to do things on a weekly basis, for sure, so I apologize. Last week, I think we did miss a week of the meta-analysis, but we're back. Before we get into all the decks and all the great stuff, I just want to, let you guys know that Chill Series number 32 is coming tomorrow as I record this. It's Tuesday and Wednesday tomorrow at 6:15 p.m. We're going to kick off with Chill Series number 32. Free entry, 250 battle styles in the prize pool, sponsored by PTC GeoZone. I definitely recommend that you guys go check out this tournament. Register, it's going to be sweet, all that good stuff. Go check it out. All right. Okay. All right. I mean, we can get right into it, I think. So let's go to the tournaments, I think, and we're going to go to completed. So that's kind of what we do here is we just take a look at all of the most recent, big tournaments here that have happened in the past week or so, and then that's what we're going to be taking a look at. I actually want to start, though, with the GG Tour $500 Chill TCG Cup number 6, which was actually on the 15th, so it was about 10 days ago. But it was a tournament that we didn't really get to cover. And 200 players. We had $500 cash on the prize in the prize pool. So definitely, a pretty legitimate tournament here. And I just want to go ahead and take a look at some of the decks, just a few of them. Pikarom was a deck that won the tournament, and Pikarom's been getting better and better as this format has evolved, right? I mean, Rapid Strike Urshifu is still a really good deck. It still sees a lot of play. But with it kind of declining in play and declining in sort of viability, things like Eternatus and Pikarom have really kind of come back and been some really phenomenal, decks. This tournament was best of 3, and Pikarom's a very consistent deck. It's a deck that historically does very well in best of 3 formats, and that's because it's just overall a really good deck. This is a pretty standard Pikarom list. However, there are a few things here that I want to cover. This was Vitor Lugan's deck, who did win the tournament. And he's running 4 Boltund, 2 Dedenne, 2 Pikarom, 2 Mewtwo, which is all standard stuff. 1 Crobat, 1 Eldegoss, 1 Raichu, and a Alolan Raichu, and then 1 Tapu Koko Prism Star. So the Pokemon lineup is very standard for this deck. Sometimes people run 3 Boltund, but honestly, I think 4 Boltund is extremely good. Similar to when you're running a Zacian deck, you want to run 4 Zacians because it's just that good. We always want to start our game with it, right? So that's kind of the idea of running the 4 Boltunds. But on top of that, everything else here is pretty normal. 4 Marnie, 4 Research, 3 Boss. We actually have 2 Yell Grunts and 4 Crushing Hammers. So a lot of times we used to see like 4 Crushing Hammers with maybe like 1 Yell Grunt. And then for a while, people took out the Yell Grunt for a fan of Waves. But I think that Yell Grunt is really, really good. It's interesting that he was running 2 Yell Grunts, though. I do find that to be very interesting for sure. But I do kind of like it. So a lot of energy denial here. Going to be really good in that Eternatus matchup. Going to be really good in ADP. So there's a lot of times where that Yell Grunt and the Crushing Hammers is going to come in handy for sure. But on top of that, we've got 4 Quick Ball, 4 Switch, 2 Reset Stamps. I do like double Stamp in Pikarom. Marnie Stamp late game, or Stamp Tandem Shock late game is going to be just so good. And it's a lot of the times the way that we're going to pull out wins like out of nowhere with Pikarom, and that can really be the difference sometimes. So I like the double Reset Stamped. Only 2 Cherish Balls and 1 E-Radar, so that's sort of the other ways that we're going to find a lot of our Pokemon. It's interesting for sure. So I think Vitor is just kind of running less Pokemon search overall, and in return is kind of running some more energy removal. But yeah, 2 Cherish Balls, 1 E-Radar, 2 Air Balloons, so we're actually running any Big Charm or Stealthy Hood in this Pikarom list. Just kind of going straight consistency with the double Air Balloon, which I do like. I like that. I think that Big Charm can be really good right now with all those E-turns running around. But maybe the format was a little bit different 10 days ago. I'm not even sure. It moves so quickly. And then we have 10 Lightning Energy and 4, Speed Lightning Energies. So 14 in total. I think Pikarom typically runs actually 13 in total. So he might be running 1 extra energy than the typical normal Pikarom list tends to run, which is interesting. But I do think that this list is really good. I think if you're running just a Pikarom list that is focused on just doing exactly what it wants to do as consistently as you can, I think that this Pikarom list is going to be really phenomenal. So shout out to Vitor Lugan. I got first in the tournament. The next one I want to take a look at is Sesto Cento from Israel. His Altaria list. So this is kind of like an Altaria control type of deck. If you want to call it control. I know like people don't really call like Decidueye or Altaria control decks. They're kind of like lock decks. Because of course Altaria and Decidueye have that ability where they're immune to damage from V and GX Pokemon. And this is going to be really important because of course there's a lot of those in the format, and it's one of those things. Honestly, I kind of take this list as a easier to use, like an easier to set up Decidueye list. There's a few things here that I find to be very, very interesting. So we're running a 4-4 Swablu Altaria lineup, 3 Snorlax, which is going to be the Gormandized Snorlax, a great way to draw cards. We have one Genghis-Khan, so that's going to be probably just as a attacker late game to get some KOs, and if you ever need to win by prize cards, that Genghis-Khan is going to be really, really good. And then we have a Munchlax there for snack search. Really good a lot of times in control decks to get a card back from your discard pile, which I like. And then we have a Mew bench barrier. So that's the Pokemon lineup. Again, a very much just an Altaria deck with a few things kind of thrown in there. Definitely really interesting. We have 4 Birdkeeper, 4 Marnie, 3 Cynthia Caitlyn, 3 Boss, 1 Malalana, and 1 Skyla. So, we're not actually running the tag call engine, but similar to Decidueye, we're kind of running a lot of the same things that we were running in that Decidueye list, which won a little while back, and the one that kind of was popularized once it won. 4 Lily's Pokédoll. So again, kind of really stalling with this deck, really kind of just give it, an extra backbone when you're just kind of try to set up and extend the game. Lily's Doll is actually also going to be really good to ensure that we don't deck out. So that's just another thing that can be really good with it. 4 Quick Balls, 2 Evolution Incense, 2 Level Balls. Level Ball seems to be pretty good in this deck, considering the Pokemon that we're running with 4 Swablu, 1 Munchlax, 1 Mew. So those are all cards that we can search with Level Ball. And then 2 Scoop Up Nets as well. The Scoop Up Net I find to be very interesting. I wonder if that's for, maybe if it ever comes down to it, we want to get Munchlax or Mew off our board. If the lock is ever in place and we know that they can't go through us, we can kind of backtrack and scoop up a few Pokemon that they could take for prize cards. 1 Ordinary Rod, 3 Big Charms, and 1 Big Parasol. The Ordinary Rod's pretty normal. The Big Charms is interesting because if you Big Charm an Altaria, that brings you up to 140 HP, which I don't know if that really makes too much of a difference. I assume it probably does. There's not a lot of single prize Pokemon that are KOing for 140, or even Aegislash I think does 130. But if that's thrown in an ADP, then it's doing 160, right? So maybe Big Charm isn't super needed, but I guess it's supposed to give your Altaria more livability, because Altaria really only hits for 60, so a lot of times it can't even compete with a lot of single prize attackers. So that might help it for sure. And then the Big Parasol I find to be very interesting. It just means, there's no effects of attacks, so, or abilities, I believe it is. It might even, I think it's abilities. Or no, I think it's effects of attacks. So that's going to give, of course, just your Pokemon more, more of a tanky, locky feel to it. Because they can't really poison you with attacks. They can't do things like that. To really ensure that our Altarias are as safe as they possibly can be. 4 Capture Energies, 4 Powerful Energies, and then 3 Twin Energies. Those Twin Energies are going to be phenomenal for the Kangaskhan and the Altaria. But the Capture Energies, again, give the deck more consistency, and then Powerful Energy. If we get 2 of those on Altaria, we're now hitting for, 100? Which is a lot better than hitting for 60 for sure. Going to make it a lot easier to take prize cards. It's interesting. It's not a deck that I really would ever think to go super far in a best-of-3 tournament, but it just seems that people weren't really prepared for it, right? And a deck like this can always pop off, and it can always kind of get wins because just the whole inherent nature of Altaria and Decidueye, similar effect, that it just can auto-win matchups, and people at the time probably weren't really prepared for it. So definitely very, very interesting for sure. Anything else that we should take a look at here? I guess Nallerton got 9th with this control deck. His control deck, which is similar to the last one that we saw, but there's a lot more going on here. I'm not going to spend all the time to talk about it, but yeah, I mean, this was more of a control deck. We do have like the Alolan Muck there to mill some cards off their deck. We have Absol and Giratina. Definitely more focused on energy denial, which is definitely really good. Sorry. And, just kind of, a lot more of a traditional, control deck with all of the things that we're running here. Like sort of, the Wills and the Yellhorns, Wonderlab, Gallarmine, Absol, all the energy removal. So it's definitely different. And there's a lot going on here, but, I'm not going to explain it too much. I'm just not a big control guy, and we got to move on to more decks. But yeah, shout out to Nallerton. This deck was also really cool. He got 9th at GG Tour. Sorry about that. I got something all up in my throat. Okay, anyway. Okay, next up on the 16th, we had Sunday Open, Atlas Collectibles, won by Mudkip. So, Mudkip won this tournament, which is interesting. Oh, no, that was Sleepy Sundays, my bad. Sunday Open. Okay, so yeah, this is going to be super interesting, actually. There's a lot of really cool stuff to take a look at for this tournament. I guess we can just take a look at a straight Rapid Strike Urshifu list, because it's been a while, I think, since we've really taken a look at just a normal, basic Rapid Strike Urshifu list, but this is one that I really, really like. I think if you're running Rapid Strike Urshifu, the Scoop Up Net Jirachi engine is almost needed because we have things like Giratina, Mewtwo, Mimikyu, and Zigzagoon, which are just going to be so good in the deck for a variety of reasons. It just makes a lot of sense to be running the Scoop Up Net Jirachi engine. Also makes the deck more consistent, in my opinion. The supporter lineup, all standard stuff there. 4 switch, 4 Scoop Up Net, 2 air balloons, so plenty of switching options. All good things I like in double martial arts dojo with a tool scrapper as well and a great catcher. So all things that I really like in Urshifu. In my opinion, man, I think if you're going to play straight Rapid Strike Urshifu right now, this is the list that you got to run because it just can do everything that it needs to do. Still going to be really difficult to beat those Psychic Mewtwo's, but those are seeing a little bit less play, I think, right now. And I think that the most played or the most successful Mewtwo deck might actually be the Grass Mewtwo, which, your matchup's still probably going to be a little bit iffy with that as well. But it's totally cool. I like this list a lot. I think it's phenomenal. I really do. Rapid Strike Urshifu is such a consistent deck. It's such a good card. And there's not a lot of things that really want to go up against a Rapid Strike Urshifu, especially when it draws really, really well, for sure. But, this deck just hasn't seen as much play as it used to, and E-Turn and Pikarom are kind of coming back. But the next thing that I want to take a look at is Python's list here. This was kind of a newer list, and it's a Centiskorch energy removal, energy denial deck. Because for those of you who don't know, Centiskorch V has this attack Radiating Heat. For one fire energy, you can discard an energy for that energy from Centiskorch, and if you do, you discard an energy from your opponent's Pokemon. This is actually a really, really good attack for energy removal. It's super consistent. You can get it off immediately. And when paired with things like, Giratina with Scoop Up Nets, Crushing Hammers, it's just a really viable way to remove energies from your opponent's board until they just don't have anything to work with. So that's what this deck's kind of all about. We have a 4-4 Pidgeotto lineup, so that's going to be the way that we're actually drawing cards. That's our main draw engine. We do have a couple Snorlaxes in there. Munchlax, we're going to be using this probably to get our Crushing Hammers back out of our deck, because there should be some turns where we have time, especially since the deck is focused around energy denial. But you might be like, why do you have a Centiskorch VMAX in your deck? Well, the reason for that is because we're actually running Memory Capsule. So, a lot of times it is a little bit difficult for them, where it's a little bit easier for them to just kind of KO a 210 HP Centiskorch V, even with all the energy denial that we're putting onto them. But if we evolve into a Centiskorch V Max, put the Memory Capsule on, it gives us 110 more HP, so now we're at 320, but we're still able to use that Radiating Heat attack. It's just going to be extremely, extremely good. So I really like the concept with this deck. It's really funny, and actually really good in a lot of ways. One Crobat. The Giratina in there, like I said, for energy removal. Mew, protect the bench. And then we have Mewtwo and Mimikyu. Mewtwo to get the supporters back. Mimikyu to shut down those GX Pokemon if we do damage. Which Radiating Heat does do like 20 damage. So, eventually we might be KOing stuff. But also this deck only has 5 energies. But if you do stack up your energies on Centiskorch, which is possible. We have 2 Fire Crystals as well. We can actually do some damage with Centiskorch VMAX as well, which is another reason to evolve into it. Which is definitely pretty cool. 3 Cheryls to make this deck just tanky on top of all the energy denial, which is so funny. Bird Keeper, Sonia, 4 Quick Ball, 3 Crushing Hammers, 3 Level Balls, 3 Scoop Up Nets, 2 Reset Stamps. So, this deck is just absolutely hilarious. It's one of my favorite lists that I've seen play. And it actually did really well here at the Sunday Open. It's just cool. It's just something different, something new. It's another type of control deck. It's funny because Centiskorch isn't typically used this way, and that's why I find a list like this really interesting. Because somebody took a really played card, a really common card that used to see a lot of play a certain way, and then just kind of made the deck completely different and did something different with it. It's kind of an interesting one. I haven't actually had much experience with this list. I haven't really played it, but what I can tell you is that it's actually pretty viable and it's really funny, for sure. If you're playing against it, it's probably not going to be that funny, much like a lot of control decks. But yeah, either way, I really like it a lot. So shout out to Python. Big shout out to Python. Next up, we Redhoon 9. He's from Taiwan. He was actually playing Cinderace VMAX, which is a Fire-type VMAX card that just doesn't get the love. With Victini coming out recently, with Centiskorch being around, Cinderace just kind of gets put in the back seat. No one really thinks about it, but it's actually pretty viable. And it's a very, very good card. We're only running a 3-2 lineup in the deck, which is interesting, but there, excuse me, there are a lot of other things in here, which are, are pretty funny for sure. We have 2 Volcanions, 2 Dedennes, 1 Double V. The Volcanion's going to be a good starting option. Double V, a very good secondary attacker. Dedenne to draw cards. We have a Zigzagoon in there, or Zangoose, sorry, not a Zigzagoon, a Zangoose, which I believe is in there for Brutal Edge, and I'm not even sure what that attack does. So let's go and check out Zangoose. Does 10 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So that's actually pretty phenomenal. It goes really well actually with the Galarian Rapidash V, which is actually in this deck for sure. So that's pretty cool. 1 Crobat, 1 Heatran, and 1 Reshiram and Charizard as some more secondary attackers. Eldegoss, a lot of times in Welder decks. And then the Galarian Rapidash V, we see this in Welder all the time right now, and that's because, for 2 colorless energy, it has that really powerful attack, which brings any of your opponent's Pokemon, even on the bench, down to 100 HP. Can be really, really, really good. And it works really, really, really good with Zangoose as well. So that's pretty funny. Marshadow, get rid of Stadium, so those Chaotic Swells. We even have Oricorio GX in here. So there's a lot going on. But it kind of all works together pretty well, which I find to be interesting. 4 Welder, 3 Boss, 1 Skyla as their supporter lineup. 4 Quick Ball, 3 Switch, 2 Cherish Balls, 2 Pokecoms, 2 Reset Stamps. And then we got the Fire Crystal, Gears in there. Great Catcher, Air Balloon, Hearth, 12 Fire Energy. So there's just so much going on in this deck, but each thing kind of has its own purpose. And realistically, this deck did do very well, and it's a list that I actually think is super, super cool. It's one of those weird decks where, like, most people wouldn't really know how to go about playing this deck, right? Someone probably built it with a specific idea and a specific sort of game plan in mind. And that's why they kind of did well. But, just thinking about random people who pick up the list and try to play it, it might be one of those more convoluted, like complicated, like hard things to just kind of pick up and know exactly what to do with it. But a lot of times those decks do well because if you're playing against those decks, you also don't know what they're trying to do, really, right? So definitely pretty cool. It's something different. It really is. It's just something different. Welder lists are so powerful. It just kind of makes sense that it was that successful because it is actually pretty good. That is a good one. All right. Shout out to Sunday Open. Shout out to Atlas Collectibles. Next up, I guess we can just quickly go over Chill Series 31. We did do a separate video taking a look at the top 16 deck lists. So if you're here and you haven't watched that video, I recommend just go checking it out. Link will be up in the annotation below, up there. So go check that out. But I think quickly what I want to take a look at is the deck that won. There was another Cinderace up here. There was Altaria. There were some Mewtwo decks. So all things that we've taken a look at, even in this video. But I just want to go ahead and take a look at this Victini list, which I also did make a separate video on. So you guys can go check that out. It'll be linked up above. But yeah, I mean, Victini is super, super good. It's a really, really good attacker, but it does have some inherent weaknesses. And that weakness being, if you're hitting up against just a GX Pokemon or something that's not a V Pokemon, you only do 100 damage. And a lot of single-price Pokemon have more than 100 damage. And on top of that, there's a lot of tag teams and GX cards still left in our format. So, Victini is extremely good in a lot of matchups, in a lot of scenarios. But Victini isn't that great in other scenarios. So the way that we get around that with this deck in particular is a few different ways. We do that in a few different ways. We've got 2 Galarian Rapidash Vs, which, like I said, drops your opponent's HP down to just 100, which is perfect because Victini hits for 100, and then it does the 120 extra if it's a V Pokemon. But Galarian Rapidash V, we can bring any Pokemon down to 100 and then finish any Pokemon off with Victini VMAX. Very, very, very good. On top of that, though, we also have a Heatran GX and a Reshiram and Charizard GX, which are some of the best GX Fire-type attackers in our game right now, which, of course, kind of bolsters that, attacking strength of Victini. If we're going against a Pikarom or a Mewtwo, it might just be worth us setting up a Reshiram and Charizard because, it is still one of the best attackers of all time. 300 damage for 6, nothing to scoff at, and going to be really, really, really important in this matchup for sure. Yeah, I mean, other than that, though, it's just a Scoop Up Net Jirachi version Welder deck, right? I mean, we have 2 Denanes, 1 Crobat, 1 Eldegoss, 4 Scoop Up Nets, 4 Jirachis, 4 Welder, 3 Boss. I mean, everything else in here is pretty much, run-of-the-mill standard Welder stuff, but we all know that standard Welder stuff is oftentimes very, very good. So it just kind of makes a lot of sense for sure. But yeah, this list is super cool. It really is. I mean, it won 300-something player Chill Series. Shout out to Koichi. This was a deck that people were playing a little bit. There was it was there before Chill Series, but now after it won this a tournament of this size, a lot of people have just started playing it, and it's kind of become the normal list for Victini, which I find to be very, very cool. So anyway, big shout out to Koichi. I'm not going to go over Chill Series again. If you guys are interested in all of these lists here on the screen, just go check out that video. It was definitely an interesting tournament and a lot of really interesting lists. Hold on, I gotta switch out my battery. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. All right, we're back into it. Before we finish up with the video or get to the second part of the video, I want to let you guys know that we only do cover standard tournaments, standard deck lists, things like that in this video series, mainly just because I don't play Expanded a whole lot. There's a lot of things I don't know. My input wouldn't be that viable or valuable, and we just on the channel we only cover standard stuff. So we're gonna continue. Next up is gonna be Senichi 18 SOS monthly number 4. So this is Pedro Torres' tournament. about 100 players here, and it was actually won by Azul GG. And we can see here that I believe ADP was banned at the Azul sub tournament, so not really an actual standard format, more of a custom format. But for the most part, standard decks were played, of course. Azul, as well as a lot of other people, were playing Green's Reshizard or Tempo Zard. This was a list that we took a look at a little while ago. Tempo Zard is really, really good, and it's just a deck that, honestly takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of knowledge of the matchups and correct sequencing. So a deck that I personally don't ever play, but a deck that I've seen play a lot and see a lot of success actually fairly recently. So here's the list. Might be kind of interesting to take a look at this. You might be like, what's this deck all about? Well, we're not running any Pokemon with abilities, so Green's Exploration is going to be a really good, draw engine for us. We get to search our deck for 2 trainer cards, so definitely super good there. 4 Volcanions, 2 Reshizard, and 1 Breaks and Charizard. So those are just the cards that we're using in the deck. And the main idea here is that really we're just going to go double Reshi, and we're going to set it up, as quickly as possible. We're going to bulk it up as much as possible with, of course, the 4 heat energies that are in the deck increase our HP by 2 each time we attach that. We have 2 big charms in here as well, and we have things like a Great Potion and a Malolana, which are all going to be searchable with that Green's Exploration. So, a really good way to kind of, make Reshiram and Charizard even more bulky than it is, bringing it up to potentially 320, 340 HP, which is crazy since we're hitting for 230 sometimes, and that outrage attack becomes even more viable, for sure. The Breaks into Charizard is actually really cool as well, so if we can get that set up with 4 energies, just doing 180 consistently while also searching our deck for 3 cards is extremely, extremely good, because we have a lot of 1-up cards in this deck that are going to be really viable for us in a lot of different matchups. Just looking, all of the 1-ups in the deck, we have Great Potion, Tag Switch, Fan of Waves, Great Catcher, E-Spinner, Switch, Fire Crystal, Escape Rope, Scoop Up Net, Lily's Pokédoll, and Tool Scrapper, as well as Power Plant. So those are all 1-ups of the deck that we could potentially just grab and use at any given point. But we also have Double Reset Stamp in here. We've got a Power Plant on top of 2 Giant Hearts. It's just a really, really, really cool deck, and one of my favorite decks, to see play right now. It can definitely brick. I'm not saying that it's perfect. It's not a perfect deck. But it definitely has really high highs and really low lows. There's not a lot of decks that really like to go up against this deck. And water isn't necessarily played at all, unfortunately, which is why this deck is actually a really, really good pick. And I like it a lot. I think it's really good. It has really good matchups against a few things in particular. And in my opinion, it's just a really, really, really cool list. So here it is, Green's Reshizard. Again, I don't really have too much else to say about it, about the matchups or whatnot. I just don't know much about it. But I have seen people play it, and it's a very fun deck to watch a high-level player play it, like Azul. So that's something. Next up, we actually had Roberto Torres, who actually got second playing Dragapult. This actually is baby Dragapult. This isn't even Dragapult V and Dragapult V Max. This is not necessarily a meta deck, and like I said, ADP was banned for this tournament, so that's part of the reason why a deck like this was able to go so far in the tournament. But Dragapult, baby Dragapult here, the Infiltrator single prize Dragapult, is actually really, really crazy. This card here, in order to take any damage, your opponent has to flip a coin, and if they flip heads, then they get to attack you, but if they flip tails, they doesn't do any damage. We also do 120 and put 3 damage counters, I believe, on anything on the bench. So it's a really good attacker for 2 energies. 120 damage is nothing, to scoff at. Can really work pretty well here. As well as being a single prizer, they have to go through 4 of these things. And that's going to be really hard when they have to flip a coin flip every time and you're doing 120 damage. So it's actually a really good list. ADP obviously would just kind of, tear through a deck like this. It only has to take 3 KOs instead of 6, which makes it much, much worse, especially with all the ADPs running around in Standard. But if ADP's not here, this deck is definitely difficult to work with for sure. And I'm surprised it didn't actually just take it all. But the deck is really funny. And again, if you're ever playing in an ADP ban tournament, this is actually really viable. Single prize decks in general become viable. This one just happened to be the one, which I find to be really, really, really funny. I like the double XP share, since, these things are probably going to get KO'd. So it's good to be able to conserve those energies. I like the Rosa. I like 3 Rosa, 3 Bruno. Those are really good draw support cards that are thrown into single prize, decks, because, their opponent, you get KO'd more when you're playing single prize archetypes, and Bruno and Rosa are really, really good in those scenarios. And 2 Ordinary Rods, 1 Escape Rope, 4 Rare Candies, all great stuff. This deck is so funny. So funny. Level Ball's also really good because we can search for Dreepy, Dracloak, and Mew. So that's all stuff to keep in mind as well. Just a really funny list. It's one of my favorite lists that we're going to take a look at today. So here it is. Shout out to Roberto. But anyway, that was the Shinichi monthly tournament, which was on the 21st. So shout out to Pedro, my man. And this, I guess we're going to just jump up to the next Sunday Open because the Limitless Major this week was actually expanded. And like I said, I'm not going to say much about expanded. So we're just going to get into it and take a look at the Sunday Open on, whatever it was. Okay, so let's take a look at this peak roam list that won. We already took a look at a peak roam list. I just want to compare. So this is actually very similar to the last one that we saw, except we're running one Fan of Waves instead of 2 Yell Grunt. We're running one Big Charm in here instead of a 4th Speed Energy. Everything else here is pretty much the same, I think. But I think we actually might be running... we're running one less Boltund, and that might be because I think maybe Eldegoss? Was Eldegoss in this before? Probably was. I'm not sure. It's a little bit different, but, the skeleton for Pikarom is the same. This was a best-of-1 format, so, again, this might make a little bit more sense as to why the deck looks a little bit different. But for the most part, extremely similar, probably the same 57, 56 cards, and that's just how Pikarom rolls. It's a really good deck. Not surprised at all that it's won a couple tournaments in the last week. Anyway, what else do we got? I guess we can take a look at Mewtwo Rillaboom. Koichi Kimura actually got second at this Atlas Collectibles with his Victini list, so that dude knows what he's doing. That was the same guy that won Chill Series, by the way. Anyway, this is Grass Mewtwo. So, in my opinion, the best Mewtwo deck right now on the market in the playing field. Super, super good. The Rillaboom engine is phenomenal. Eggrow is actually just a really good attacker right now in this format. Mewtwo is even better, removing that fire weakness. And going to be really good. Just going to be phenomenal. It really is. Calming Hurricane can be extremely good with the big charms and Malilana's thrown in there. Really makes this deck, or these Pokemon in this deck, that much more bulkier. Consistently accelerating energy with Rillaboom and consistently getting Rillaboom out with Super Growth. It's going to be super good. And as well as that Tropical Hour GX attack for not only 200 for 3, but if you have 6 energies on, I think it's discard all energies or shuffle all energies on your opponent's board back into their deck, which can be just absolutely detrimental in a lot of matchups and can honestly just be your win condition right there. And that actually happens pretty consistently, especially if our opponent isn't running any energy removal or denial, so definitely super good. I like the double as well. Double is super, super good late game as an attacker. Also effectively with Big Charm, brings it up to 240, and then they have to hit you for 270 actually to KO you. So very, very powerful Pokemon Double is. And then one Crobat, one Eldegoss, one Kricketune as as our draw engine. Since we are running Mewtwo, though, we can run some secondary attackers, and that's why we have things like Incineroar GX, Pheromosa Buzzwole GX, and Vileplume GX as well. And these are going to be really good attackers. I mean, Buzzmosa, Beast Game GX, we can take an extra prize card if we KO something with 50 damage. Beast Game's also going to just be really good, or not Beast Game, Jet Punch. It's going to be really, really good against Mad Party. Elegant Soul does 190 for 3, so just a really good option there. And then Vileplume for 2 energies, if we have full HP, could actually do 180, which is also a really good option. Then Incineroar, we can, one-shot anything in the format if, of course, they hit us pretty hard, because Darkest Tornado does 50 damage for each damage counter onto us, so absolutely incredible. And then we have a Dedenne GX as well thrown in here. So it's just good. It really is. It's consistent. It's got a lot of options. Everything that it can do is good. And no matter what we do with this list, it's probably going to do pretty well. 3 Boss, 3 Marnie, 2 Guzmahela, 2 Malilana, 1 Synthgate with a 4 Tag Call engine. I really like the kind of the backbone of the list here. 4 Quick Ball, 2 Cherish Balls, 2 Ordinary Rods, 2 Air Balloons, 2 Big Charms. All phenomenal stuff here. 2 Chaotic Swell as well, so it's a Swell deck, which is actually really good in this format right now, I believe. Then we have 10 Grass Energies, 2 Captures, and then 1 Weak Guard Energy. Only 1 Weak Guard, but that's all we should need, right? I love it. I like it. I really think if you're playing Welder right now, or if you're playing in this format right now, or want to play a Mewtwo deck, this is going to be the deck that you should play. Grass Mewtwo has been really good for a while now, and right now it just seems to be the Mewtwo deck of choice. And in my opinion, the best Mewtwo deck in our format. Psychic Mewtwo is really good still. I do think that, but I think that Grass Mewtwo just has sort of a, a little bit of an advantage. Just kind of I don't even know the term. It's a couple steps ahead, in my opinion. I don't know what the term would be, really. But yeah, shout out to who's this guy's name? Zehong Louis? I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, that's it. We're gonna wrap up the video there. Quick meta-analysis. We actually looked at the past 10 days of standard decks that won tournaments, did well at tournaments, and hopefully you guys enjoy these videos. I just really enjoy, personally, making these videos and looking at all the cool deck lists from all the tournaments, and it just, in my opinion, is very, very interesting for sure. So yeah. I mean, shout out to all of you guys. Shout out to everybody who played in these tournaments. If you're looking to play in in any of these online PTCGO tournaments, you guys can just go to play.limitless.com. Link will be down in the description below. It's a phenomenal website. This is where we kind of have our Chill Series tournaments as well as other tournaments for you guys potentially to go check out. Speaking of tournaments, go play in Chill Series number 32. Tomorrow, already 130 people registered, so it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a great tournament. I really can't wait. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Maddie from Chill TCG. Link to register for Chill Series 32 is down in the description below. Like the video, subscribe, become a channel member, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to get out of here. Peace out. Have a great day. We'll see you guys tomorrow for Chill Series number 32.